Hello. It's the start of the new week, and I have nothing to say. Let's just get to trading. So figuring out the daily bias for today was kind of difficult due to the fact that price was super choppy and I couldn't really tell. But my bias for the day is bullish due to the fact that there's recent breaks of structures to the upside. This was surely confirmed off market open after we got a bullish break of structure, so I marked out my order block and breaker block and waited for price to retrace into it. However, as soon as I marked out these POIs, price quickly jumped to the upside, making me think that it wasn't going to come back down to these areas. But eventually it did, so I just waited for a break structure to the upside off the 1 minute, which I got, so I entered the trade. Price just sort of consolidated for the next 20 minutes and I had to go to work, but when I got back, I noticed that price had hit my take profit for a fat dub of $290. Now looking back, I am a little upset because if I was here during the trade, I would have taken partial profits at the first dotted line and full profits at the second dotted line, which would have won me around $900, but hey, a win is a win. So my bias for the day is bearish. As you can see, recent breaker structure to the downside, so we're looking for shorts today. Price formed a bearish breaker structure off market open, so I marked out my breaker block and order block and waited for price to retrace into it. After price entered my breaker block, it shot up then consolidated for a while, but I did eventually get a bearish breaker structure, so I entered the trade. But what I didn't realize was there was a bullish breaker structure before I got the bearish one, so price just reversed and I got stopped out for a loss of $440. My bias was clearly bullish for the day, as you can see recent breaker structures to the upside. After I got that breaker structure, price shot up then reversed to my order block. Then I noticed the fair value gap, which is a confluence that I've been overlooking the last 2 weeks. So I marked this area and waited for price to reverse to it, which it did, so I entered the trade. But here's where I messed up. When putting in my risk percentage, I accidentally added a 1 to the one that was already there. So instead of risking 1%, I was risking 11% in my account. So I was over leveraging a lot. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I was going through it. Suddenly, every little move made my heart drop. At one point in time, I was down $900, but I ended up closing my position for a fat W of $1,024. And after that, I was done. I just got off the charts. Today was high impact news on USD pairs at 8:30, and I wanted to see how the market was going to react to this news, so I didn't take any trades before 8:45. With that being said, price was clearly bullish, so I was looking for buys today. So at this point, I was just waiting for a bullish breaker structure, and waiting, and waiting, and waiting. But I never got a setup, and the market honestly just didn't move today, so I didn't take a trade. Today, my bias was heavily bearish. I thought price was going to come up and tap POIs and then continue down towards these 4-hour lows, so I was looking for shorts today. Off market open, price took out our Asian highs, and I was just waiting for a bearish breaker structure, which I did eventually get, so I marked out my breaker block and order block. Shortly after this, price tapped into these zones, so I scaled down to the 1 minute time frame and waited for a bearish breaker structure, in which I would enter the trade off of. However, price consolidated for a while, but then did something that gave me even more confidence that my trade idea was correct. Price came up into my order block and swept recent buy side liquidity, which means price is likely to shoot down. Shortly after, I got a bearish breaker structure, so I entered the trade and targeted recent lows. To me, this felt like an A+ setup. It hit every single one of my confluences and gave me everything that I wanted to see. Looking back, one thing I can say is price wasn't moving very much during this time, so it wasn't an A+ setup, but I feel like it was pretty good. But price just ended up reversing and stopped me out for a loss of $439. I think this is just one of those times where I followed my trading plan perfectly and the market just didn't go in my way. So that brings it into week 3, and I can definitely say this is my best trading week. I feel like every trade I took was a good trade, and besides that lot size accident earlier in the week, trading felt really smooth. With that being said, I ended the week with a profit of $435. So this marks my first profitable week, and there will be many more to come. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching, and see you next week. Bye!